It's 2 nights before Christmas, the city is wrapped in white, and a woman in a red coat is walking away from the worst blind date of her life, fighting tears in the middle of Rockefeller Center. She thinks this is the moment she'll spend yet another holiday completely alone. When suddenly, a tiny gloved hand slips into hers. A little boy looks up, snowflakes catching on his lashes, and whispers the words that will change everything. "Please be my Christmas miracle." One sentence, from a 6-year-old who just lost his mom, and a stranger who's been told she's never enough, is about to prove that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with a child who refuses to let go. Stay with me, because what happens next will make you believe in miracles again. The tree at Rockefeller Center towers above the crowds like a living constellation, every branch dripping with golden light. The air smells of roasted chestnuts, hot cocoa, and that crisp, electric promise that only happens right before Christmas. Couples hold hands under the great tree. Children squeal as the first real snow of the season starts to fall, fat, lazy flakes that melt the second they touch your cheek. And there, weaving through the magic, is Elena Harper, 28. Pediatric nurse at New York Presbyterian. The kind of woman who still believes in fairy lights and second chances, even after too many first dates that never became second ones. Tonight she is wearing the red wool coat she found in a Brooklyn thrift store 2 winters ago, the one she swears makes her feel brave. Underneath, a simple black dress she saved 3 paychecks for, and the tiny gold snowflake necklace her grandmother gave her the Christmas before she passed. Elena stands on the promenade, clutching a paper cup of hot chocolate that's gone cold, waiting for a man named Justin who her coworker Marisol swore was perfect, tall, successful, loves kids, practically has husband material tattooed on his forehead. She checks her phone again. 7:42 p.m. He's 12 minutes late. She smooths her coat, forces a smile, tells herself it's fine. Maybe he got stuck in traffic. Maybe the trains are slow. Maybe, just maybe, this will be the year she doesn't spend Christmas Eve eating lo mein alone on her couch watching Love Actually for the 19th time. At 7:49 he finally appears. Tailored camel coat. Expensive watch flashing under the lights. The kind of handsome that belongs in magazines, not in real life. Justin's eyes scan the crowd, land on her, and something shifts. His smile falters. Just a flicker, but Elena catches it. He walks over, kisses the air somewhere near her cheek, and before she can even say hello he's already glancing at his phone. "Elena, right?" "Yeah, hi. It's nice to finally—" "Look, I'm so sorry," he cuts in, voice smooth but cold as the rink ice. "Something came up at the office. Last-minute thing. I have to go." Elena blinks. "Oh, okay. Maybe we could." "I don't think so." He gives her a quick, pitying once-over, the thrift store coat, the drugstore lipstick, the hopeful sparkle in her eyes that suddenly feels childish. "You seem sweet. But I'm looking for something a little more polished, I guess." The words land like a slap wrapped in velvet. Polished? The word echoes in her ribs. He's already turning away, raising one hand in a lazy wave without looking back. And just like that, before the waiter at the Sea Grill can even seat them, Elena Harper is alone again. She stands there under the great tree while strangers take selfies and kiss and laugh, and she feels the rejection sink all the way into her bones. Another Christmas. Another reminder that she is always the girl who tries too hard, loves too easily, and is never, ever quite enough. She drops the cold hot chocolate into a trash can, pulls her red coat tighter, and starts walking toward the subway, snowflakes melting into the tears she refuses to let fall in public. Little does she know. The night is only just beginning. Elena walks south on 5th Avenue, past windows dressed in velvet and gold, past families laughing over steaming cups, past couples tucked under shared scarves. Every step feels heavier. Every happy face feels like proof that joy is something that happens to other people. The snow is falling harder now, clinging to her lashes, slipping cold beneath her collar. She keeps her head down so no one sees the tears finally winning. Her phone buzzes in her pocket. A text from Marisol. "How's the prince?" Elena stares at the screen until it blurs. She can't bring herself to answer. She turns the phone face down and keeps walking. At 48th Street she stops under the awning of a closed boutique, presses her back to the cold glass, and lets the first sob escape. It isn't just Justin. It's the pattern. The surgeon who said she was too soft for his lifestyle. The teacher who ghosted her after she met his parents. The firefighter who told her, gently, that he needed someone who didn't come with so much hope. Too soft. Too much. Never enough. She thinks of her tiny studio apartment waiting in Washington Heights, the little plastic tree with exactly 9 ornaments, the single stocking hung on a nail because there's no fireplace. She thinks of waking up on Christmas morning with no one to make coffee for, no tiny arms flinging themselves at her with bedhead and joy. "I'm tired," she whispers to the empty street. "I'm so tired of being the girl nobody stays for." She wipes her face with the sleeve of her red coat, takes one shaky breath and starts walking again. The subway is only 3 more blocks. If she can just make it home, she can crawl under 3 blankets and pretend the holidays don't exist until January. She's almost to the corner of 47th when it happens. A small gloved hand, warm, insistent, impossibly small, slides into hers and holds on like it belongs there. Elena freezes. She looks down. And the world tilts. The tears still clinging to her lashes catch the streetlight like scattered diamonds. A little boy stands there, no more than 6 years old, bundled in a navy cashmere coat that costs more than her rent. Snowflakes dust his dark curls. His cheeks are pink from cold, but his eyes are the clearest, brightest blue she has ever seen, and they are fixed on her with desperate, unshakable hope. He clutches a creased photograph in his free hand, edges soft from being held too often. "Please don't go yet," he whispers, voice trembling with urgency. "You're wearing the same color coat as my mom in the picture." Elena's heart stops. She crouches slowly, red coat pooling around her knees in the snow, until she's eye level with him. "Hi, sweetheart," she manages, voice cracking. "What's your name?" "Lucas," he says, and the name comes out like a prayer. "Lucas James Cavendish." He holds up the photograph with both mittened hands, as though offering her something sacred. In the picture, a beautiful woman laughs mid-twirl under last year's Rockefeller tree, red coat flaring like a cardinal's wing, dark hair flying, joy radiating from every pixel. Elena's breath clouds between them. She went to heaven," Lucas says, lower lip wobbling. "Last Christmas Eve. The car slipped on ice and she didn't come home." A tear rolls down his cheek, freezing halfway. "I asked Santa for one more miracle," he continues, voice so small yet impossibly brave. "I've been looking everywhere for someone who could be it. And you have her coat. And kind eyes. And you look like you give the best hugs." Elena feels her own tears spill over. She wants to tell him she's nobody special. Just a nurse who got stood up. Just a woman who's never been chosen. But Lucas steps closer, presses the photograph to his chest, and looks up at her with everything he has left. "Please," he whispers again. "Please be my Christmas miracle. Just for tonight." Behind him, a tall man in a charcoal overcoat has stopped several paces away. Even from here, Elena can feel the weight of his stare. But right now, the only thing in the universe is this little boy holding her hand like it's the last rope off a sinking ship. Elena brushes a snowflake from Lucas's lashes with her thumb. She hears herself answer, soft as falling snow. "Okay, Lucas. Just for tonight. I'll be your miracle." Lucas's whole face lights up brighter than the Rockefeller tree. He throws his arms around her neck, buries his cold little nose in her red coat, and for the first time all evening, Elena Harper feels exactly, perfectly enough. She has no idea that the man watching them, tall, silent, heartbroken Alexander Cavendish, just felt his own frozen heart crack wide open for the first time in a year. Alexander Cavendish doesn't speak until they're all inside the warmth of the car. The driver pulls away smoothly and Lucas, still holding Elena's hand like he's afraid she'll evaporate, finally lets out a tiny victorious sigh. Alexander clears his throat. "I'm Alexander," he says, voice low, almost rusty from disuse. "Thank you for not walking away." Elena meets his eyes in the dim glow of the passing streetlights. They are the same impossible winter sky blue as his son's, but ringed with exhaustion and something that looks a lot like fear. "I couldn't," she answers simply. "Not when he asked like that." Lucas twists around in his booster seat. "Miss Elena, have you ever had real hot chocolate? Not the packet kind. The kind with real cream and cinnamon and tiny marshmallows that melt on your tongue?" Elena laughs, the first real laugh all night. "I can't say I have, sir." Lucas gasps theatrically. "Daddy, we have to fix this immediately." Alexander's lips twitch in what might be the ghost of a smile. Home it is then. 20 minutes later they're stepping out of the private elevator into a penthouse that overlooks the park, all twinkling whites and golds. The tree is enormous, dressed only in soft white lights and hundreds of delicate glass snowflakes. Underneath it sits one single present wrapped in midnight blue paper. But Elena barely notices the luxury. She's too busy watching Lucas tug off his coat and mittens, revealing dinosaur pajamas underneath the cashmere. He grabs her hand again. "Come on. Kitchen." The kitchen is warm and smells like vanilla and cedar. A kind-eyed woman in her 60s, Mrs. O'Malley, the housekeeper, lights up when she sees Lucas dragging a new grown-up behind him. "Lucas James, who is this angel in the red coat?" "This is Miss Elena and she's my Christmas miracle and she needs the special hot chocolate right now." Mrs. O'Malley wipes a tear with the corner of her apron and gets to work. Alexander leans against the marble island, arms folded, watching in silence as his son pulls a stepstool over and insists on helping. Lucas stands on tiptoe, carefully spooning cocoa, pouring cream, sprinkling cinnamon exactly 3 times because 3 is a magic number. Elena finds herself lifted onto a counter stool, red coat draped over the back like it belongs there. Lucas stirs and stirs, tongue poking out in concentration. When it's ready, he carries the steaming mug with both hands like it's the Olympic torch and sets it in front of her. "Careful, it's hot. You have to blow on it like this." He puffs out his cheeks and demonstrates. Elena blows gently, then takes a sip. It is, without question, the best hot chocolate she has ever tasted. Lucas bounces on his toes, waiting. "Well?" She closes her eyes dramatically. "I think I just heard angels singing." Lucas cheers and throws his arms around her waist. Alexander's voice is soft behind them. He hasn't smiled like that in 365 days. Mrs. O'Malley quietly excuses herself, sniffing. They move to the living room. Lucas drags Elena to the couch, pushes her down, then races away and comes back with his absolute favorite book, The Polar Express. He crawls into her lap without asking, as if it's the most natural thing in the world, and opens to the first page. Alexander sits in the armchair across from them, hands clasped between his knees, watching like he's afraid to blink. Lucas reads aloud in his sweet, earnest voice, stumbling over some of the bigger words. Every time he does, he looks up at Elena for help, and she whispers the word like a secret between them. Halfway through, Lucas stops, touches the page, then looks straight up at her. "Miss Elena?" "Yes, sweetheart." He bites his lip, suddenly shy. Then, in the smallest, bravest voice, "When the bell rings for people who believe, do you think maybe you could be my new mommy someday?" The room goes perfectly still. The fire crackles. Snow taps the windows. Alexander's breath catches audibly. Elena feels tears flood her eyes again, but they're the warm kind this time. She cups Lucas's cheek. "Lucas, that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever asked me." She looks across the room at Alexander, at the man who hasn't moved, who looks like he's been punched in the chest by hope. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," she tells them both, voice trembling with truth. "But tonight I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Lucas nestles closer, book forgotten, and within minutes his head is heavy on her chest, breathing slow and even. Alexander finally stands, walks over, and ever so gently lifts his sleeping son into his arms. He pauses, Lucas's head on his shoulder, and meets Elena's eyes. "Thank you," he whispers, "for giving him tonight." Elena smiles through tears. "Thank you for letting me stay." Outside, the snow keeps falling, blanketing the city in quiet forgiveness. Inside, for the first time in a year, the Cavendish penthouse feels a little less like a museum, and a lot more like a home. Alexander carries Lucas to his bedroom, tucks him beneath a blanket printed with tiny moons and stars. He lingers in the doorway longer than necessary, watching his son sleep with the peaceful abandon only children can manage after a miracle. When he returns, Elena is still on the couch, red coat folded neatly beside her, hands wrapped around the cooling mug like it's an anchor. Alexander doesn't sit across from her this time. He lowers himself onto the opposite end of the couch, close enough that the firelight paints gold across both their faces. For a long moment, neither speaks. Snow taps the windows. The tree lights blink softly like they're breathing. Finally, he breaks the silence. His mother's name was Claire. His voice is rough like it's been locked away for months. Elena turns toward him, knees tucked beneath her, listening with the same gentle patience she gives her smallest patients. "She loved that red coat," he continues, eyes on the fire. "Bought it on a whim in London the Christmas before Lucas was born. Said it made her feel like the heroine in one of those old movies." He swallows. "Last year, December 23rd, we argued. Something stupid, about whether we should drive upstate in the snow. She kissed Lucas goodnight, told me she'd see me in the morning, and the roads were worse than we thought. The police came at 2:14 a.m. I still remember the exact minute because the clock in the hallway chimes." He rubs a hand over his face. "I keep thinking if I'd just said stay, if I'd driven her myself." His voice cracks on the last word. Elena reaches out without thinking, rests her hand lightly on his forearm. He flinches, then stills, like touch is a language he forgot how to speak. Alexander, she says softly, it wasn't your fault. He looks at her, then really looks, and something raw and unguarded flickers across his face. I shut down after, he admits. Built walls so high even Lucas couldn't climb them. I thought if I let myself feel anything again I'd lose him too. A tear slips down Elena's cheek. She doesn't bother hiding it. I know what it's like to feel like you're not allowed to want more, she whispers. My whole life people have left. My dad when I was 4. My mom when the cancer won. Every boyfriend who decided I was too much or not enough, usually both. She laughs, watery and small. Tonight was supposed to be different. I put on the nicest dress I own, practiced smiling in the mirror, told myself maybe this time someone would stay. And then he took one look at me and decided I wasn't polished. She shrugs like it's nothing, but her voice trembles. I was walking away thinking maybe I'm the problem. Maybe some people are just meant to be alone. Alexander turns fully toward her now. Elena. He says her name like he's testing how it feels on his tongue. You are the first person Lucas has let touch him, really touch him, since the funeral. He fell asleep in your lap like it was the safest place in the world. He reaches out, slow enough that she can pull away, and brushes a stray curl from her cheek with the back of his knuckles. You are not the problem, he says, fierce and quiet. You are the answer we stopped daring to pray for. They sit there until the fire burns low, trading small truths like children trading treasures. She tells him about the pediatric ward at 3 a.m., about singing lullabies to babies who have no one else. He tells her about the nights he sits in Lucas's room long after he's asleep, terrified of missing a single breath. At some point their hands find each other on the couch cushion between them, fingers threading together like they've done it 1,000 times. Neither pulls away. When the grandfather clock in the hall strikes 1, Alexander stands and offers his hand. Let me drive you home. Elena looks up at him, eyes luminous in the dying firelight. Actually, would it be okay if I stayed? Just until morning. I don't want Lucas to wake up and think the miracle left. Alexander's answering smile is small, shattered, and utterly real. I was hoping you'd say that. He disappears for a moment and returns with a thick blanket the color of fresh cream. They curl up on opposite ends of the massive couch, the blanket stretched across them both, hands still linked in the middle. Outside, the snow falls thicker, covering the city in forgiveness. Inside, 2 broken hearts, one big, one small, and one that just walked in wearing a thrift store red coat, begin very quietly to heal. The days between December 24th and New Year's Eve blur into the sweetest kind of dream. Elena never really leaves. She wakes on Christmas Eve morning to Lucas jumping on the guest room bed in reindeer pajamas, shouting that Santa came and that there's a stocking with her name on it, hand-stitched overnight by Mrs. O'Malley of course. Under the tree she finds one small box, a delicate silver bracelet with a single red enamel heart. Alexander shrugs like it's nothing but his ears are pink. Lucas insists she has to stay for cinnamon French toast and the best Christmas movie marathon in the whole world. By the time the credits roll on Elf, Elena is wearing one of Alexander's Harvard sweatshirts, Lucas is asleep against her side, and Alexander's arm is draped along the back of the couch, fingers brushing her shoulder like he's been doing it for years. The next morning she tries to go home for fresh clothes. Lucas clings to her leg with the grip of a baby koala and tearfully produces a hand-drawn calendar where every day until January 2nd is marked with red crayon hearts and the words "Stay with US." Alexander doesn't say a word. He just looks at her with those quiet winter eyes and murmurs, "We have plenty of room." So she stays. Mornings become slow dances in the kitchen. Alexander flipping pancakes into the shapes of stars while Lucas stands on a chair beside Elena, helping stir the batter and getting flour in his hair and hers. The smell of vanilla and warm maple syrup fills the penthouse until it feels like the coziest place on earth. Afternoons are for Central Park. Lucas in his little red sled, shrieking with delight as Alexander pulls him through fresh snow, Elena laughing so hard her cheeks hurt. One day Lucas insists on making 2 snow angels side by side and declares, "Now we're a family of angels." Evenings are Elena's favorite. She and Lucas build blanket forts in the living room big enough for 3. Alexander pretends to complain about structural integrity while secretly engineering the best fort known to man. Inside, fairy lights glow, cookies disappear, and Lucas falls asleep every single night curled between them while Elena reads about polar bears and brave little trains. One night, after Lucas is tucked in, Elena finds Alexander in his study staring at an old photo of Claire. She doesn't say anything, She just slips her arms around his waist from behind and rests her cheek between his shoulder blades. After a long moment he turns, folds her into him, and holds on like she's the only solid thing left in his world. New Year's Eve arrives glittering and cold. They bundle Lucas up and take him to the park to watch the fireworks over the lake. Lucas stands between them, holding both their hands, eyes huge as the sky explodes in gold and violet. At midnight, when the first booms fade, Lucas tugs Elena's sleeve. "Miss Elena, close your eyes and make a wish." She does. When she opens them, Alexander is watching her, snowflakes catching in his dark hair, and the look on his face steals every ounce of air from her lungs. Lucas yawns dramatically. "Daddy, I think Miss Elena needs a New Year's kiss. It's tradition." Alexander's smile is soft, a little broken, a lot brave. He cups Elena's cold cheek with one warm hand. "May I?" he whispers. She answers by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his, gentle, wondering, tasting of champagne and hope and the promise of tomorrow. Lucas cheers like they just won the World Series. Later, when Lucas is asleep and the city is quiet again, Alexander leads Elena to the balcony. He slips the little red enamel heart bracelet around her wrist and fastens it with careful fingers. "I'm not very good at this," he says, voice rough with everything he's feeling. "But I know I don't want to wake up a single morning without you in it." Elena's eyes fill. "I've been waiting my whole life to be someone's morning," she whispers back. He kisses her again, slower this time, like he's memorizing her. Behind them, the lights of Manhattan sparkle like a million tiny miracles refusing to go home. And just like that, almost without anyone noticing, a heartbroken billionaire, a lonely nurse in a thrift store red coat, and the bravest little boy in New York City become the family none of them knew how to ask for. It's January 6th. The Christmas decorations are coming down all over the city, but in the Cavendish penthouse the tree is still glowing, because Lucas begged to keep it just a little longer. Tonight is the annual Cavendish Foundation Gala, black tie, held in the grand ballroom of the plaza. Alexander has spent a week trying to convince Elena to come as his date. She finally agreed, but only after Mrs. O'Malley took her shopping and came home with a floor-length emerald silk gown that makes Elena look like she stepped out of a fairy tale. Alexander can't take his eyes off her all evening. Every time she laughs, he finds her hand under the table. Every time someone asks who the beautiful woman in emerald is, his answer is the same quiet, proud smile. "She's with us." Lucas, dapper in a tiny tuxedo with a red velvet bow tie, has been allowed to come for the first hour only. He spends it glued to Elena's side, showing her off like she's the prize he waited his whole life to win. Then, during the silent auction, it happens. A string quartet begins a gentle waltz. Lucas tugs Elena onto the dance floor before anyone can stop him. He stands on her feet the way Alexander taught him, little arms around her waist. The crowd parts, smiling indulgently at the adorable sight. Lucas rests his cheek against her silk-covered stomach and, loud enough for half the ballroom to hear, sighs with perfect contentment. "I love you, Mommy." The music keeps playing but everything else stops. Elena freezes. Alexander, standing at the edge of the floor with a glass halfway to his lips, goes white as the marble beneath their feet. A dozen phones lift. Cameras flash. Someone gasps, the sharp intake of a society matron who knew Claire. The word Mommy ricochets around the room like a bullet. Alexander crosses the floor in 4 long strides. He lifts Lucas into his arms without a word, face unreadable. "Time to go home, buddy," he says, voice tight. Lucas blinks, confused. "But Daddy." "Now, Lucas." Elena stands alone in the middle of the ballroom, emerald silk suddenly feeling like a costume she has no right to wear. Alexander doesn't look back as he carries his son away. An hour later, Elena is back in the penthouse, changed into jeans and the old red coat, packing the few things she brought over the last 2 weeks. Alexander finds her in the guest room, tie loosened, eyes red. "Elena. I heard what that word did to you," she says quietly, folding a sweater with careful hands. "I saw your face. I'm not her, Alexander. I never will be. And I won't let Lucas get hurt because he loves me too fast." He steps closer, voice breaking. "He didn't mean?" "He meant it with every piece of his heart." She finally looks at him, tears sliding free. "And one day he'll wake up and realize I'm not his mom. That I was just a placeholder. I won't do that to him." Alexander reaches for her. "You're not a placeholder. I'm the woman who walked into your grief wearing the wrong color coat," she whispers. "And tonight the whole world reminded you both who really belongs in it." She slips past him, bag over her shoulder. He grabs her wrist gently. Elena, please. Don't leave like this. But she's already shaking her head. Some miracles are only meant to last 12 days, she says, voice cracking on every word. Thank you, for letting me be yours. She presses something small and cold into his hand, the silver bracelet with the red enamel heart. Then she walks to Lucas's door, kneels, and kisses his sleeping forehead one last time. I love you, sweet boy, she whispers. Be happy. The elevator doors close behind her with a soft, final chime. Alexander stands in the hallway clutching the bracelet, chest heaving like he's been running for miles. Outside, the city is cold and indifferent. Inside, the tree lights blink once, twice, then go dark. For the second January in a row, Alexander Cavendish watches the woman he loves walk out into the snow. And this time he's the one who let her go. The second day, January 7th. The city wakes to a blizzard. Elena hasn't slept. She sits on the floor of her tiny Washington Heights studio, knees to chest, staring at the empty spot on her wrist where the red heart bracelet used to be. Her phone is dark. She turned it off after the 100th notification. Society pages, gossip sites, the photo of Lucas calling her mommy, already viral. She keeps replaying Alexander's face, the way the color drained from it the second the word left his son's lips. At 9:17 a.m., someone knocks. She ignores it. They knock again, harder. When she opens the door a crack, a single red mitten lies on the mat, Lucas's mitten, the one with the tiny dinosaur patch she sewed on for him. Tucked inside is a rolled-up drawing in something small and metallic. Elena unrolls the paper with shaking fingers. It's crayon and pure love. 3 stick figures holding hands under a Christmas tree that touches the top of the page. The tallest figure has dark hair and a sad face scratched out and redrawn with a huge smile. The middle one is clearly Elena, red coat, yellow curls, a giant heart over her chest. The smallest has wild curls and the words Lucas plus mommy plus daddy equals family written in purple, underlined 3 times. At the bottom, in Alexander's careful adult handwriting. He hasn't eaten since you left. He won't take off his coat because it still smells like Elena. I was terrified of replacing Claire. I was wrong. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'm trying to choose you. Please. Come home. Taped to the corner is the silver bracelet with the red enamel heart. Elena is already pulling on her boots. She runs. Down 6 flights of stairs, into the storm, red coat flapping open, hair whipping wild in the wind. The streets are nearly empty, plows haven't come yet. She hails a cab, none stop. She runs the last 20 blocks, lungs burning, tears freezing on her cheeks. She reaches the familiar building as the snow turns blinding. The doorman sees her and throws the door wide without a word. She stumbles into the private elevator, punches the penthouse button over and over like it will make it rise faster. The doors slide open. Alexander is there, hair uncombed, eyes bloodshot, still in yesterday's shirt, holding Lucas, who is wrapped in a blanket, face buried in his father's neck. The second Lucas sees her, he wriggles free and launches himself across the foyer. Elena. She drops to her knees in the marble, arms open, and he crashes into her so hard they both almost fall. His little body shakes with sobs. You came back. You came back. She holds him so tight she can feel his heartbeat. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Alexander crosses the distance in 3 strides. He cups her face with both hands, snow melting from her lashes onto his thumbs. I'm sorry, he rasps. I panicked. I thought loving you meant betraying her. But losing you, God, Elena, losing you taught me the only thing I'm betraying is us. His voice breaks completely. I love you. Not as a replacement. Not as a miracle for one night. I love you because you walked into our broken life wearing a second-hand red coat and you made it whole again. Elena's tears spill over his fingers. I love you too, she whispers. So much it scares me. Lucas pulls back just far enough to grab both their faces, one tiny hand on each cheek, and announces with tear-streaked authority. No more being scared. We're a family now. That's the rule. Alexander laughs through his tears, the sound raw and perfect. He sinks to his knees with them, right there in the foyer, snow still dripping from Elena's coat. He takes the bracelet from her trembling fingers and fastens it back around her wrist, kissing the exact spot where the red heart rests. Then he looks at her, really looks, and asks the question with everything he has left. Elena Harper, will you stay? Not just for tonight. Not just for Christmas. Will you be our family, our home, our forever? Elena's answer is immediate, fierce, and tear-soaked. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Alexander kisses her, slow, deep, reverent, right there on the marble floor while Lucas cheers and throws his arms around both their necks. Outside, the blizzard rages. Inside, 3 hearts finally come in from the cold. 1 year later. December 23rd, exactly 7:42 p.m. The Rockefeller Center tree is bigger and brighter than ever, snow swirling in slow-motion spirals under the lights. Elena Harper, now Elena Harper Cavendish, stands in the exact same spot where she once stood alone, red thrift store coat swapped for a new one Alexander had made in the identical shade, because some things are meant to stay forever. In her arms is Lucas, now 7, taller, but still insisting on being carried, just for special occasions. He's wearing the same navy cashmere coat from that first night, sleeves a little short now, because he refuses to outgrow the night his miracle arrived. Alexander stands behind them, arms wrapped around them both, chin resting on Elena's shoulder. Lucas points excitedly at the promenade. Look! That's where I found you. Elena laughs, the sound bright and unafraid. And that's where you saved me, little man. Alexander turns her gently, snowflakes catching in her hair like tiny diamonds. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out something small wrapped in midnight blue paper, the same paper from the very first gift under their tree. Inside is a delicate ring, white gold, a single ruby heart surrounded by a halo of diamonds. Lucas bounces in her arms. Daddy practiced the words 100 times. He was so nervous he kept dropping the ring in his oatmeal. Alexander's ears go pink, but his eyes never leave Elena's. Elena, he begins, voice steady and full of wonder, 2 years ago I thought love had taken everything it was ever going to give me. Then a brave little boy in dinosaur mittens dragged a beautiful woman in a red coat into our lives and taught me that sometimes love doesn't take, it multiplies. He drops to one knee right there in the snow, same spot where Justin once walked away, same spot where Lucas once said please. Will you marry me, again, in front of the whole city that watched us begin? Will you keep being our Christmas miracle every single day for the rest of our lives? Lucas is already nodding so hard his hat falls off. Elena's yes is half laugh, half sob. She pulls Alexander up, kisses him until they're both breathless, until strangers around them start clapping and cheering like it's a movie. Lucas wriggles down, grabs both their hands, and starts jumping up and down. We're getting married. Again. And then pancakes. With extra whipped cream. They walk, no, they dance, toward the Sea Grill, the same restaurant Elena never got to enter 2 years ago. Tonight table 9 is reserved under the name, Cavendish Family, finally complete. Inside, Mrs. O'Malley is waiting with tears and champagne. Marisol from the hospital is there, crying into her napkin. Even the waiter who never got to seat Elena that first night raises a glass. They eat chocolate soufflé and drink hot chocolate with cinnamon, 3 shakes, because 3 is still the magic number. Outside, the snow falls soft and forgiving. Inside, 3 hearts that were once broken in the exact same place beat together under one perfect light. And if you look closely at the Rockefeller tree this year, somewhere near the top, you'll find a new ornament, a tiny red enamel heart, glowing like it was always meant to be there. Because some miracles don't end when Christmas does. They just keep growing. And that is the story of the little boy who refused to let his Christmas miracle walk away. If this story made you cry happy tears, if it reminded you that love sometimes shows up wearing a thrift store coat and holding a 6-year-old's hand, please hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that warm the heart, and comment below the moment that made you believe in miracles again. Because every love story matters. And yours is still being written. Merry Christmas, beautiful souls. See you in the next one.